Okay. Peace. Peace, peace, peace. Getting everything ready here. All right, Shakim, peace. Let me do the knowledge because Facebook, I throw stuff on Facebook, but it hasn't been very useful for me, you know, as far as like all the work I'm doing. So I have a lot of friend requests backed up, you know. And let's see if I can. Yeah, so I haven't put too much effort. I just accepted you. Okay, I just accepted you. So all right. I'm good. I'm good. It's a lot of work I've been doing, so I'm just really, it's for everyone here. I ask everybody to be as specific as possible with the things that you request from me, so that way, it's not just left to random. You know what I mean? When the students are with me, around me, I can give them assignments though, but I can't. This course, the Peace course that I design, is really based on the way that I teach. You know, and I can't really design the coursework as individualized as I would like it to be if I don't learn more about the individuals that I'm teaching. You know, and that was really the problem that I felt, you know, last week. So, I don't know if Knowledge Allah is on yet, but he gave me a great build about the hereafter. It's really good stuff. It's good stuff. I have some thoughts later. I literally just read it. I'm very behind this week as far as some things go. Um, I'll probably go through some things if no one is asking. But questions. I'm gonna wait a little while for questions or any of your builds. Okay. Remember, the strength of the student is in the question, not in just waiting for answers. So, Shakeem, wise you, tell me where you're at. Uh, Tell me what you've been studying. Tell me where you're at. 120, always refresh me. You know what I mean? Refresh me so we can go through some things. You know what I mean? In the power day, people should be able to show their power, show their strength. If you pass the 1 to 10, you should be able to tell me uh, 5 pieces of understanding that you think are unique to you, or at least special to you, if not unique to the world as you see it. You know what I mean? These things are important. Malik. All right. Peace to the God. Oh, this peace shot came. You know, Najee was just here when I came in. Okay. That's funny. That's funny. Never quite been described that way. There's a thunder above their heads. I am good, Knowledge Allah. I just had mentioned that I got an email from you that was exceptional. I thought it was really great. I think that I like extreme detail. And I think in time, what you wrote to me can lead to even more detail. And it has to be used as a blueprint for you, because this last sentence, understanding that our life is only a product of the knowledge we acquire, the way we use or don't use it, and the results of such, sounds pretty simple, sounds pretty obvious, but that could be applied to so many things. So it becomes real wisdom. You know what I mean? It's a very good build, and I understood what you meant when you were talking about the hereafter, how you were deciding to use the word. A lot of the focus that you had when you were dealing with civilization, that last chunk paragraph, the last major paragraph, right? Um, I certainly agree with use interpreting power as influence, though, when it's being applied to certain things, right? The truth is that our hereafter, this was the question that he was answering. It's only, I didn't get too many answers for it, and certainly none is good. Peace to the God, Allah Preem. The hereafter, you know what I mean? When we didn't have the knowledge and we were getting the knowledge, that was the hereafter. When we get the knowledge and we start to teach it to others, what is the hereafter? See, the hereafter is a funny thing because you can analyze it though to your desires, really to the reality. The truth is, I was walking here and I was realizing that it is very possible, just like it was when I first got the knowledge, I always thought this was possible, that we may not be able to teach the entire world this knowledge in our lifetime. You know what I mean? It may not impact greater. You see, we passed a certain peak, a capitalistic peak of teaching and knowledge. I don't know if that peak can happen again. But what I mean by that capitalistic peak is our greatest, most, our biggest money makers that us as original people make is music. Black folk make music, we entertain. We could entertain in movies, but we don't control the movies. We still control the music because they can't make music from scratch the way we do. Doesn't matter how much we try to destroy music, they can't make music the way we do from scratch. You know what I mean? They can make all these machines. They can equalize it. And the truth is that many, for example, many of the great producers, music makers, for example, in hip hop today, meaning the era that I cover, they are not original people. They're white, a lot of them. And a lot of them is due to the equipment being expensive, maybe the time it takes, but that's something with all musicians, right? The time to actually make music, the opportunity. But a big difference is that the palette, excuse me, not the palette, the blueprint is already there. So their palette, their taste for the music is already there. We're in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. We're in the fourth decade of the music, right? 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Excuse me, we're in the fifth decade of the music. So this is not a thing that is racist in any kind of way, but white folk catch on, and they catch on either well or insincerely. You know what I mean? There's a lot that catch on sincerely. So that's what I mean. But they are following a blueprint. So their innovations are always within that blueprint. Specifically in hip hop, is a very structured blueprint, right? The quality of the sample, right? If you follow those guidelines, the quality of the dig, uniqueness of the drums compared to others, a set rhythm that allows an MC to go inside the set pockets that are laid out in that production. When you have such parameters that are very set, a blueprint like this, it is very easy to step in and have grit. Okay, a lot of our people making bad music, though, it's really because they don't want to follow that formula. Our people don't like to be restricted to a blueprint. The reason I'm saying this is because this is where we're at now. Our people don't like to be. Our people are still doing what they like to do and not what they ought to do. So you can't separate like and dislike yet. So we went through a peak where we're able to put that in this knowledge of self in song and get this song out there. Wu-Tang, Rock, Rakim, Brand Nubian, what have you, right? And it went worldwide in many ways, right? But then after, when people hear the message, though, it becomes something that becomes cataloged, and now people want something else. People, what's interesting about knowledge is that knowledge always is, and I always tell people when I teach them, please don't make this knowledge my knowledge. I teach people martial arts. I teach people about music. I teach people this knowledge of self. I teach people about diet. That isn't my knowledge. That isn't, in other words, it's not me. I am not that only. Because what happens is that we end up clicheing by who carries this knowledge. And sometimes, unfortunately, who carries this knowledge well or most consistently, right? But the truth is that we're to learn from anyone, we have to realize that knowledge doesn't belong to that person. So the character and the reality that they made of it, we do not have to adhere to. But at the same time, we don't have to do the opposite and try not to adhere to it. Somebody develops a martial arts, teaches the martial arts, or teaches a healthier diet, vegan, living foods diet. We learn it and agree, but now we have to do it in our own way. And what happens is our people fight for originality in the wrong ways. That also, to make it theirs, you know what I mean? There's also a problem that I've encountered. It keeps them from doing things because under the guise that they want to be original, but in reality, they don't want to test things out, you know what I mean, and do things that are right. This is a big deal. I think this is a big deal. So now hip hop had this message, and we have to admit that that's really how the message got so big and multiplied. And it was solidified because the teachers that people came to were so good. And then heard that people like Freedom, right? Remembered in Perfection, Freedom Allah, aka people know him as Papa Wu, were so endearing. A lot of people did, a lot of us that knew Papa Wu, Freedom, know him as a 5%er, right? But a lot of people didn't get to experience Freedom the way I did, because a lot of people don't get to experience things in this way. But I got to see how people that are not with the knowledge are affected by him, were affected by him. I say are, I tend to talk to him about him in the first person because I still get people that are not with this knowledge still ask me about things that he said in skits, and now also things that he said online. You know what I mean? Because I'm a 5%er, because I teach here, because I do hip hop, I seem to be like the one that be able to analyze him, even though I don't think I'm hardly the one to do it. There's so many people that spend so much more time with him. But that was the peak, and he's one of the people that led this peak. And it cannot be discounted in any way that if the knowledge itself gets credit for going worldwide in that time of the 90s, Freedom is crucial to that. Can't tell you how indispensable his reality was. Monumental. You know what I mean? And I've been thinking about that, and it only takes me to look at a picture or a picture, because with the work I'm doing, I have to make myself go back to listen to older music. It really is a requirement. You cannot judge music as in a whole field if you don't go back and listen to it again and again. You know what I mean? And put everything into a context. But so let's say this though. Worst case scenario of this hereafter. This hereafter seems to have a damn bump in the road. This knowledge got brought everywhere. And I've been thinking about this because this year the virus died down and students didn't come back that much. They contacted me, but new students aren't really filing into the school, not that much that I can see, you know what I mean? Certainly less. I've been teaching mainly you all online, which has really been excellent, and I've even afforded myself a few nice moments, like when I taught and decided to just teach from home so I could have a little bit more time with my little one. But at the same time, though, it shows you that this knowledge of self cannot be wasted. You cannot waste time with it. You must take your opportunities to share things that have the truth of this knowledge. You have to take your opportunity to teach people, even if you don't know everything about it, but show them exactly where to get it. It is so easy to find things. It is so easy to find stuff. It is so easy to search for things. And we're going to have to find a way to demand better of ourselves, because this hereafter has a major bump in the road. We've gone through the music. The music has been used to really build. And then now, once I started to teach here in 2000, I taught with a different premise, though. I became more influenced as as a writer that is definitely, me and Daysun shared this culture, but that old writer culture, that what you write is going to be revered later, and even when you're gone, certainly when you're not around, whether in a in a physical space or in the physical realm, in this universe, in this particular world, this time. So we wrote that way, and we were ready for things like that. And then I started doing the martial arts and start understanding that you could learn this knowledge and never really teach anyone. You know what I mean? Never really teach anyone. In other words, the more you teach, the more that you'll see the potential of people. And if you graded things by what I taught them and the potential that they achieved, you may be, you may have to, you may not come to the realization of this truth, that there was a combination of teacher failure and really the fact that a student never really was going to be much greater. Use it when they could. I think that we try so hard to take away emotions, but we become more emotional. We get this knowledge, though, and we're emotionless as God. Everyone must succumb to us, but the truth is that we're more emotional because we have to be acknowledged as God, because we have to be this, we have to be that. And what I'm saying is this: you have to be willing to find some kind of way to share this knowledge bit by bit, usefulness by usefulness. That even things that don't seem to be associated with the knowledge, if you really listen to yourselves, the majority of things that you will learn that seem to be not dealing with the knowledge of self are now only being acquired because you have that lens of the knowledge of self, that you are the true and living God, the true and living earth, or even a righteous man with a knowledge of themselves, right? And that must be taken into consideration in the way that you teach, though, that you really realize that the source drive that you have to share with people of how you got this, to this conclusion of this, to the conclusion of that, to the way that you attack this, to the way that you create those things and these things, and this is because of this knowledge of self, because you know who you are as a daily reality of being God, being the creator of all things in this universe, that none of it really exists without you. And that if there were so many infinite things that exist that you cannot trace, it is because you have always been here, and that we are all linked, that we're all the original people. And so there's a lot of work to do, but there's also a lot to know. If you could divide up your time, though, and realize that your time is only divided up in two things: on the path to go learn something, or on the path to go use something that you learned. If you can realize that your life is based, and base your life on those two paths, understand that these are the paths that you're on every single moment, then what happens is that everything is either a wonderful preparation that prepares you for a performance that is going to come. And if it does not come, then you are in a perpetual preparation for something that is happening right now. And then everything is performance. Everything is using something you know. Everything is going to go get something. Going to go get something that you don't know. We're really only doing those two things. And if we could focus on those two things, then we know where creativity lies. It lies with getting more tools for the creation. It lies in testing these tools in the creation of things. This is why I keep telling you that the most important thing for us, though, is to learn to open our palettes. Open our palettes, read different things. You know what I mean? I'm reading a book, right? Very short book. And honestly, I'm reading short books because I've read, let's see right now. I'll be honest with you. I have a lot of long books that I started. Like I'm talking about like 700 pages, 1,200 pages. I think I have 1,200 pages. And I just want to get through my 52 books a year requirement. Right? This is the way I work. This is the way I work, right? And so I've read 45 books, and I'm about 10 pages off number 46. But this 46th book, and what I mean by short books, I've been reading a whole bunch of books that are about 100 to 150 pages long. You know what I mean? And sometimes when you do that, it allows you to be as diverse as possible and jump into a whole bunch of different subjects. So that way I can see which subjects I want to go in deeper. And this one is particular. I found it intriguing. Let me see where it is. How to Read Nature. Awaken your senses to the outdoors you've never noticed. There's another subtitle there. Yeah, it's too small. I gotta open the book to see the whole cover. Yeah, I'm on page 100. It has 108 pages. Yeah, taste, direction, smell time, hear the weather, and more. You know, so you see how that was what really drew me, because it was trying to show like a different way of looking at things. Taste, direction, smell time, hear the weather. Besides that being kind of ill poetics, the book is not written that dynamically as far as poetics, but we have to start looking at things and changing the way that we look at things, the way that we view things. You know what I mean? One of the things that they have done to us, though, is that they cannot really lock down our creativity. Our creativity makes the entire world run around, and we spark every civilization. We spark this devil's civilization continuously, whether it's us, African Americans, Latinos, whatever they are, Indians out in India making things, Chinese inventing things, whatever it is. But particularly those leaders, the potential leaders that are most oppressed, those original people here in the wilderness of North America, they try to trap us because they cannot stop our creativity, but they can possibly funnel it to a particular direction. So understand that they cannot stop our creativity. The ones that really understand, they know that they need our creativity, so they funnel our creativity. You see? And they funnel our creativity by keeping us impoverished. They keep us in a state of survival instead of a state of thriving. They keep us needing things for survival and wanting things that are not really worthwhile. So what happens? What really happens is that we end up trapped in this kind of reality. You know what I mean? Where the greatest creations that we make can still um, kind of still stifle us. You know what I mean? And what happens is that, and I look at this and I see this the most with music. We don't really build on creation. We destroy our creations and start from scratch every time. So we actually take away the tradition of our timeline. This is one of the things that was so important about music losing its instruments. You know what I mean? First, people were not taught how to make music. And so we made music without it, like salsa. You know, these are really untrained musicians that made incredible music, right? Because they had great traditions. And then they got their learning as they went along. But then we didn't have we didn't have education nor the musical instruments. But look what happens though. To make music, we start to mine the past. This is really important. For hip hop to exist, you have to go mine the past to get a framework and then rearrange that. But the truth is that all creation works this way. We shouldn't be throwing out things. We should be adding on to things. We should be studying the past, though, to renew it in a new and fresh way. This is the way that you create. Okay? We don't make children from scratch, though. We use our own DNA. You know what I mean? Right. Let me take a moment. Um, and again, creativity is important. Though I would like all my students here to not just be trying to learn this knowledge by taking down notes, trying to figure out degrees, which is all essential, but actually delving into what could you do creatively. You know what I mean? I don't care if it starts with things that seem to be the most corniest things, like building a model. You know what I'm saying, or something like that. You know, right? So you take one of those Lego things, like I don't know, a Millennium Falcon Lego, and try to put that together. It seems like it's not creative. You're going by directions and stuff. But what happens is that you're seeing the way creativity was designed, because someone designed that machine. You know, someone designed, you know, the look of the Millennium Falcon. You know, that was creativity. And then how it translates into being made is those particular blocks that have a set way of being made, right? They have their set structure, right? That's also giving you clues on creativity. Why do you think children play with blocks? Right? That's why blocks are so crucial. You know? Let me go back to some of these comments. That's really great. You know what I mean, Shakim? That's really great. Learning a trade and everything like that. You know, I would say this though, that we all have We all have our own mental limitations of what we want to do. You know what I mean? And I was the opposite. I was being when I learned how to write, I refused to even try to learn a trade or anything else though. You know what I mean? Um, to my own struggles. You know what I mean? But getting a skill or a trade, it certainly makes life much easier. It could be very fulfilling. You know what I mean? And that's great. That's really great. You know what I mean? And to see how things are made It's also to see how things are fixed and built. You know what I mean? You study the things that you're doing though in a creative process though, you'll even get more out of it. You know, because for example, being an electrician, studying electricity and how this all works though is one of the great creations, you know? It's an incredible thing. And knowledge, you weren't long-winded though. I don't mind long-winded. Absolutely not. I love writing. I love reading. Would you say that original people have control over the blueprint, or is it controlled by those outside of our culture? We have control of the blueprint, but we keep throwing it away. That's really a problem. You know what I mean? We make something great, it sells, and then we move on to something else without using that to add on. You know, so we kind of throw away our own blueprints. You know, and that's the problem. Malik, that's a hard question. You know what I mean? Partly because it's one of the few degrees I don't research too much. At the same time, no, I have not. You know what I'm saying? Those are just names, but there could have been. You know what I'm saying? There could have been. You know what I mean? A Jebba Solomon, all that. You know? Middle Eastern history is so vague. You know what I mean? It's so vague. It is probably the youngest history and so vague because there are things of ancient Kemet that are more sensible and easier to find truth in than it is a lot of Middle Eastern history about 2,000 years ago. You know what I mean? There's more steady history and more like more useful history, more stable history that we can prove and use 20,000 years ago. You know what I mean? It's just very, you know, it's just a history that has a lot of whitewashing, a lot of manipulation, a lot of revisionist history. So you know, it's very difficult. Devon Jackson, peace. You asked me how much do the rappers in present time have expressed a certain awareness of the culture, such as Jay-Z wearing the flag, add on to the productivity of the culture. I would say Jay-Z's is almost nothing. You know what I mean? Nothing. It's nothing. You know, Jay-Z isn't a 5%er. He was somebody that was wearing a flag to promote the gimmick of Jay Electronica's um, half Muslim, half in the 5% world. You know, catch-all worlds mentality. And you see, like after Wu-Tang, people flip-flopping and being Muslim, having the knowledge halfway, having it very confused, like Jay Electronica, having it not at all, and not advocating it at all, like Jay-Z, that only causes more confusion. You know what I mean? Because we're at a point where this knowledge is already out there. So you go to rap lyrics online, genius.com, and they'll try to explain to you with RZA, with Lord Jamal, with all of them, man. And now that people know what it is, now it's a form of trivia. You know what I mean? So how do you take something that has become trivial, right, and make it worthwhile again? It's not that easy. You know what I mean? That's peace, Malik. I appreciate that. Malik, you said they took our innate ability to be intuitive with the universe of creativity. Well, I'll say that they didn't take our creativity. They take our creativity, this entire world plunders. Okay? You know, if they took a, you know. So when, you know, when we are really are the true and living gods, like if they take away our creativity, which they couldn't, but if they took away our, if they didn't invest in any of our creativity, um, they would plunder. That's why you see most of the technology that is made is really original people from the Asian countries because they feel that they can control them. Right? They're even documented as model minorities. So right, it's different. It's definitely different. So, Malik, you asked me what or who inspires you. Certainly my children. You know what I mean? First and foremost. You know, but if I said what it's who inspires me, they're first and foremost. You know, what inspires me? Listen, I do a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? But nothing inspires me by my favorite hobby, and that is reading. You know what I mean? So I'm always trying to be in a state where I'm not tired, where I'm relaxed, because the two of the things I love to do the most is listen to music and read. And those are two things I can do at the same time. Of course, I never read with hip hop on. It's people talking, you know. But what inspires me though is the reading, the words of others. You know what I mean? Um, definitely, like what books. I'm an avid book reader. I can't deny it, and that's really what I love to do. You know what I mean? I literally, and I love watching creative things too, So I love watching programs and things like that. You know what I mean? I've learned such an appreciation of acting and film from my twin brother. So I enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy it. Like I'm not wasting time. But I always catch myself trying to watch uh, programs when I'm not able to read. So I have to be like a little bit tired to watch TV because if I'm not, it's right to read instead. And of course, as we talk about it, I'm big into baseball and basketball. You know, love following the Mets lose and disappoint, and love watching different basketball players. Don't really root for teams, but those things inspire me. Creativity. You know what I mean? Of course, I do martial arts, so I love watching martial artists and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So. But I have always tried to be as active. I've always tried to make the things that I love to do as usefully active. You know what I'm saying? So like when I watch sports or something like that, or if I watch movies, especially movies and film, film, pro TV series. It's probably one of the few times that I could say I'm doing something that is not immediately useful. But even then, though, that becomes useful if you really if you learn to study the arts in a discerning fashion and gauge the quality of things in the arts, whether it's sports or film, TV, everything can become somewhat useful. You know what I mean? Right? But yeah, as far as who though, man, it's my two daughters. Number one and number two. You know. All right. Now, July, you said at me. You said I think part of the reason we give up control over the blueprint is fear. Some of us are afraid of responsibility. Well, man, I really wouldn't say some. I would say most. You know what I mean? And so it's easier to go along to get along as long as you are getting yours. It's like people believing in the mystery God. Some people want to just because it's easier to kudsu. I don't know what that means. Your burdens down on a mystery than to put in the works and handle business. I certainly agree.